Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 20th September 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see the list of topics we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic we are going to see about one report which is released by NCRB. Okay, so NCRB released a report regarding deaths in India. So which was regarding our accidents. Okay, so how many deaths or happened or incurred in India due to this accident? So NCRB released one report. So we are going to discuss that report, and here we need to talk about road safety, and this will be important from our polity which comes under GS paper 2. And next topic is about NRC, that is a National Registry of Citizens. So why this NRC is in news? Because here foreign tribunal which gave a statement regarding this NRC. So because of this is a news, and we are going to discuss about some facts regarding what is this NRC. So that is very relevant from our UPSC point of view. So again, this will be important from polity which comes under GS paper 2. And next topic it is about Nippon Bharat scheme. So after this Nippon Bharat scheme came into existence, actually there is one controversy which is happening. Okay, so because the non-Hindi medium students, they are not going to understand what are the things which are mainly said in that seminars. So because of this is in news, and this will be important from our schemes and policies of government. That will be important from our GS paper 2. And here we are going to focus on this, what is this Nippon Bharat scheme, what are the objectives. And next topic is about Helena. Helena, it is nothing but helicopter version of Nag. So this has been completed a test. Okay, so test has been completed regarding this Helena. So this is the news, and this will be important from security and as well as even science and technology point of view. And next topic we are going to discuss, it is about COVID-19 vaccines. This will be important from health. And next one, it is about SEL and relevance in our national education policy. That is very important from our education point of view which comes under GS paper 2. And next topic is about well-being. Actually in this topic there is a much data which is given. So it is not important from UPSC point of view because we can't remember that much data, right? So we are going to understand the concept of what is this well-being. That's it. So this will be important from economy which comes under GS paper 3. So these are some important topics now we are going to discuss in this lecture. So let's get started with our discussion, and now let us see the first topic. Title says 1.2 lakh deaths in road accident in 2020. It is according to NCRB. So NCRB, that is National Crimes Record Bureau, released a report regarding deaths in India which are mainly incurred due to road accidents. So this article is important regarding polity. Here NCRB which mainly comes under polity, and here if you are talking about deaths which is important from our health. And even here we will talk about road safety. So one point I want to raise here, it is my personal opinion. That is, yes, whenever we are buying any vehicle, we are paying road tax, right? So whenever we are taking any vehicle, new vehicle, so we are paying road tax. But if you see the conditions of road, especially in this rainy season, so wherever you go, there are pits which are mainly filled by rainwater, some drainage water, and as well as some flooded water. So we are paying tax, right? But government which is not using those tax to lay and to proper maintenance of this road. So because of this, what happened, there is a number of accidents that are increasing. And even whenever the roads are not nice, means if we are using our vehicles, our new vehicles on that road also, then the shelf life of our vehicles will be decreased, right? So this is the one important thing. Even in this rainy season, I am facing a lot of problems to reach the office because of bad, very bad conditions of road. So this is the thing I personally felt, and one thing I want to say is, if the road conditions are very bad means, so whatever the time taken to reach the office will be increased, and even sometimes bike may skid, right? So this is the personal feeling of myself, and let me know your comment, your suggestions, what can be done by the government regarding this road safety in comment box. Actually, we discussed about this road safety and accidents of this road already in number of editorials from I think last 6 months back. And I'm expecting like there will be the editorials which will be appear regarding this road accidents in coming days. Okay, we are going to discuss that. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. If you see context, it mainly says that India recorded 1.2 lakh cases. So India recorded 1.2 lakh cases of deaths due to negligence relating to road accidents. So India recorded 1.2, see here the number, so 1.2 lakh cases of deaths due to especially regarding this road accidents in 2020. So with 328 persons are losing their lives every day on average despite of this COVID-19 lockdown. But here not only the conditions of a road which is leading to this accident, but also people, they will not follow the rules. Okay, not follow the traffic rules, and even they want to skip this traffic, and even they will go in a very high speeds. So because of this also that will leads to deaths. So recently in Telangana, one incident happened. One famous film star who met with an accident, road accident. So mostly 1 week in every TV channels of Telangana state have been showing about that incident itself. So because of high speed also leads to these accidents. I am not only saying about the conditions of road, but even people, they are not following, they are not following this traffic rules and regulations. So it is also one important reason for accidents. So India recorded about 1.2 lakh cases of deaths due to negligence relating to this road accidents in 2020. So with 328 persons, they lost their lives. So on average every day, so across India, 328 people, they lost their life. So in this COVID-19 lockdown period, so government imposed national-wide lockdown, and even to curb the number of cases or transmission of this COVID-19. So many states they came up with their special guidelines, and as well as special curfews, and as well as night curfews, etc., made to restrict the movement. So even though number of guidelines came up with the government, but in this COVID-19 period also about 328 persons, they lost their lives every day. So it is according to government data. So now let us try to see some important details. So as many as 392 lakh lives, they were lost in 3 years in death due to negligence, which is related to road accidents. So due to negligence, about 3.92 lakh lives, they were lost. And here National Crimes Records Bureau revealed in its annual Crime India report. So National Crimes Record Bureau came up with this annual report, which mainly says that about 3.92 lakh people, they lost their life in 3 years. And next one is 1.2 lakh deaths they were recorded in 2020. And in 2019 it was 1.36, but here if you see 2020 it is 1.2 lakh, even though government imposed lockdowns. And next one is the country logged 1.35 lakh cases of hit and run since 2018. So since 2018, country which is having about 1.35 lakh cases of deaths. And in 2020, there was 41,196 cases of hit and run, while there were 47,507 such cases in 2019, and in 2018 it was 47,000 almost. Okay, so these are some important data, so you can't remember this data, but you have to remember like the title here, 1.2 lakh deaths in road accidents. It is according to NCRB report. Okay, now let us try to focus on some important facts regarding this NCRB. So what is this NCRB? It mainly stands for National Crimes Record Bureau. So it mainly stands for National Crimes Record Bureau. So where is headquarters located? Headquarters is located in New Delhi. So NCRB headquarters located in New Delhi, and it was set up in year 1986. It was set up under which ministry? That is Ministry of Home Affairs. So it is important prelims fact. So this NCRB mainly comes under which ministry? That is Ministry of Home Affairs. Ministry of Home Affairs. And it mainly functions as a repository of information regarding crimes and criminals. So it will mainly help or assist in investigation process. And it was mainly set up on the basis on recommendations of National Police Commission. So National Police Commission gave recommendations for mainly setting up of this National Crime Record Bureau. So based on this National Crimes Record Bureau was established, and even Ministry of Home Affairs Task Force also recommended for establishment of this National Crime Record Bureau. And next one is here this National Crimes Record Bureau, which mainly brings out annual comprehensive statistics of crime across the country. And being published since 1953 onwards, it is being published this report. And this report, which is an important and it is a very much crucial tool in understanding law and order situation across the country. So this is about this topic in detail. So now let us move on to next topic. Title says NRC is final. Rules Assam Foreigners Tribunal. So here what happened? So in this Foreigners Tribunal, that is FT, in Foreigners Tribunal in Assam, so one case mainly filed. So in that case, Foreign Tribunal said that, so whatever the NRC released, it is a final NRC. So this is a thing which is a statement which is given by the Foreigners Tribunal. So because of this is a news. So this will be important from GS paper 2 point of view. So now let us try to see this topic, and this will be very important from your mains point of view, especially this NRC topic. If you see context, it mainly says that Registrar General of India, Registrar General of India has not yet issued a notification regarding Assam's NRC. So as of now, here Registrar General of India has not yet issued any notification on Assam's National Register of Citizens NRC to make it a legal document. But here cause of concern is a Foreigners Tribunal has gone ahead and recorded it as the final NRC while declaring a man to be Indian. So one case which mainly filed in this Foreigners Tribunal, and in that case here Foreigners Tribunal said that yes, whatever the NRC which is released, it is a final document. But in in reality, so Registrar General of India has not yet issued any notification regarding Assam's NRC. So this is the context. And now let's try to see some details. So mainly in hearing a case by this Foreigners Tribunal, so Foreigners Tribunal said that there is no doubt that NRC Assam, which published in 2019, which is a final document. So this is a statement which is given by this Foreigners Tribunal. So it is one cause of concern now. So now let us try to understand what is this NRC. So if you are talking about this NRC, it is nothing but an official record. So it is an official record. So it mainly contains the people names or list of the names who are legal Indian citizens. So it is a list of a record or a list of the names. It mainly says about who are legal Indian citizens. So it mainly includes demographic information of the citizens. And also it mainly includes the individual names who qualify as citizen of India. It is mainly based on this Citizenship Act of 1955. So this is the thing that you need to remember. It is mainly based on Citizenship Act of 1955. So the register was first prepared after 1951 Census of India, and since then it has not been updated until recently. Okay, so this is the thing. So why we came up with this Assam NRC? Because if you see Assam, which is mainly the northeastern country, so there is an increasing of influx of refugees and as well as migrant people from the nearby country like Bangladesh. So mainly if you are going for updation, then it will be helpful to identify who are the Indian citizens. And why NRC updated in Assam? Because in 2014 Supreme Court ordered an updation regarding this National Registry of Citizens, that is NRC, that is in accordance with the Citizenship Act of 1955 and citizenship rules based on 2003 in all parts of Assam. Okay, and later on, after this 2014 order of Supreme Court, here this process officially started in year 2015. Okay, so these are the some important details that you need to remember. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says Hindi gains due to demographic shift. So it is talking about Hindi gains due to demographic shift. So what happened? Why we are talking about demographic shift? So let us try to draw the map of India. So this is a schematic diagram. It is a North India, it is a Southern India. So in Southern India, most people they don't talk Hindi. So this is the problem we are facing now, right? So many people, if they want to watch Hindu analysis in YouTube, let us take our example. So most of the channels, they are coming with this analysis of Hindu, they were in Hindi. And one important problem we South Indians face is we don't understand Hindi. We are non-Hindi people. So because of this, we will always search for a channel which explains the topics in English. And finally, many people, they approach this Rathod IAS where we are teaching this Hindu analysis in English language. Not only Hindu, but whatever the things we are coming up in YouTube, we are providing explanation only in English but not Hindi. So what happened? Why this article talking about this demographic shift? As you all know, compared to South India, North India, TFR, total fertility rate is high. In Southern India, total fertility rate is very low compared to that of North India now. So what happened? People from this area, in this Northern India, population is high compared to that of this Southern India. So whenever the population is increasing, there will be increasing pressure on resources. So these people, they started moving towards Southern India, mainly in search of jobs, etc. So because of this, now these people, Northern India people, they are Hindi people mostly. So these people, they are now gaining. Now they are gaining because of this demographic shift. So this is some important theme of this topic. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. Actually, this article which mainly talking about one important scheme, that is Nipun Bharat scheme, we are going to discuss that. So this will be important from our GS paper 2, and this scheme you can expect questions in your prelims. Now let us try to see the context. So when Center launched this Nipun Bharat scheme in July 2021, so in July 2021, central government launched this Nipun Bharat scheme. So this scheme, which is mainly focusing on foundational and as well as numeral literacy, especially in the primary school. So in primary school, this program which is mainly focusing on to improve foundational literacy and numeracy. So why only in July 2021? Because in 2020 March, government imposed nationwide lockdown, and from that time, schools have been shut down. So because of this, what happened in children especially, we are seeing learning loss. To overcome that, government came up with a number of programs, and one of that program here is Nipun Bharat initiative, which mainly focuses on foundational literacy and numeracy skills in primary school students. And if you see further, so participants from non-Hindi speaking states, they mainly complained that they were feeling illiterate because they can't understand Hindi. They could not understand Hindi, either the speeches, even the PowerPoint presentations on the schemes, all made in formal Hindi. So under this scheme, here this mainly launched by central government. So under this scheme, whatever the speeches they are giving, whatever the PPTs they are presenting, they are in Hindi language. So because of this non-Hindi speaking states, especially southern state, they are complaining about they are feeling illiterate, they can't understand. Okay, so this is the context. And if you see further more details, it mainly says that language related frictions in the country that has 121 languages which mainly spoken by at least 10,000 people. So almost throughout the country, we are not only speaking Hindi, not only speaking Telugu, not only speaking English, but there are about 121 languages that are spoken in India. Okay, and these 121 languages that are spoken by at least 10,000 people. So even if you see data, according to 2011 census, mainly says that Hindi and its variants are only major languages to have gained mother tongue adherence over last 40 years. growing from 36.99 percentage of population in 1971 to 43.63 percentage by 2011. So a large factors of this growth come from demographic changes. So actually report, okay, according to 2011 census says that, so before that, that is in 1971 census, they found about 36.99 percentage of population, they used to speak this Hindi and as well as Hindi related variant languages. But if you see according to 2011 census, so Hindi speaking population had been increased to 43.63 percentage by 2011. So why there is drastic increase from 1971 to 2011? Because of some demographic changes, that means increasing of population, especially in northern India. So this is the data which mainly says. And even if you are talking about total fertility rates, so fertility rates which is high among these poor people and even women who are having with less education. So women who are having less education, they don't understand like how to maintain the children, and as well as how much gap that should be given between childs, and even they do not have a proper knowledge regarding some contraceptive methods, right? So if you're talking about women who are with some education, they will go outside their houses and they will be doing some jobs outside. So whenever their life it is being busy, means the women, they will not opt for children, okay, they will take some informed decisions. But women with less knowledge or illiterate, they do not have informed decisions in their family, especially in this poor family, right? So because of this, if you see the fertility rates, when you are comparing with women with education and women without education, so women without education, they will be having higher fertility rates, and among poor people especially, okay. And these people, they mainly comprise of Hindi speakers. So these most of the women who are having higher fertility rates, they belongs to poor, and even they are having less education, and who comprise a higher share of Hindi speakers. So because of this, there is increasing of the population who are speaking this Hindi from 1971 to 2011. That is evident. It is according to one report. So even 10 states with highest share of Hindi speakers, they grew from 41.9 percentage of India's population in 1971 to 46.5 percentage in 2011. So if you see the population here, okay, so if you see the population, it mainly says that about 10 percentage of this 10 states, okay, 10 states with higher share of Hindi speakers, which mainly grew from 49 percentage to now we can see about 46.5 percentage by 2011. So there is a rapid increase in the population that mainly contributed from 10 states. So in these states, they will also include BMARU states. So in this BMARU state, there is high rate of TFR, total fertility rate is seen. Okay, so this is the thing which mainly said. Now let us move on to next thing, that is migrant add numbers. So how these migrants are adding numbers? So migrants from especially North India towards South India. So here from North India, the people's mother tongue will be mostly Hindi, right? So from Hindi, the people, they are mainly moving from this non-Hindi, right, non-Hindi state, so that there is mainly increasing of this non-Hindi speaking, okay. In this non-Hindi speaking states, we are seeing there will be increasing of Hindi speaking people, saying because of it is due to this migration. Migration will also add the number. So migration could be increasing the number of those whose mother tongue is Hindi, even in non-Hindi speaking states. So this is the thing that we are seeing. So this is some important details which are given in this topic. And now let us move on to what is this Nipun Bharat scheme. So this topic will be important from your prelims point of view. So if we are talking about what is this Nipun, first of all. So this Nipun mainly stands for National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy. So if you see this infographic I arranged, okay, I took this pic directly from this Department of School, Ministry and Literacy, that is comes under Ministry of Education. It mainly says that N for National, I for Initiative for, P for Proficiency in Reading with, and U for Understanding, and N for Numeracy. So it is a full form of this Nipun, okay. And this program, which is initiative of Ministry of Education. So this is one important prelims fact. And this scheme mainly implemented by Department of School Education and Literacy. So this scheme mainly implemented by Department of School Education and Literacy. And if you are talking about target of this scheme, so it is mainly envisioned for ensuring that every child in the country necessarily they will attain this foundational literacy and numeracy at the grade, that means at the grade of 3rd by 2026 to 27, and will cover mainly the children who are between the age group of 3 to 9 years. Okay, so these are some important points. And now let us try to see another infographic which mainly shows about objectives of this mission. So if you are talking about objectives, first one is, so this mission or this scheme mainly focusing to ensure classroom, okay, classroom should be classroom environment that should be in a very enjoyable manner for the children. So it should contain play activities and even pedagogies, and even activities they should be based on something they need to learn like that. And children should feel like the school, it is like their home, and children they need to enjoy school. And this one is to enable children to become motivated, independent and even engaged readers and as well as writers with comprehension. Even they need to enjoy the writing skills as well. And this one is to make the children understand the reasoning in the domains of number, even measurement and as well as shapes. And this will be helpful mainly to become independent, and even that will be helpful in problem solving as well. And this one is to ensure the availability and effective usage of high quality and culturally responsive reaching learning material in children's familiar, home, mother languages. So we need to understand the children regarding this foundational skills and even numeracy in their mother tongues. And we are also mainly focusing on capacity building of teachers, even head teachers, academic resource persons and even education administrations. And this one is, we need to actively engage with the stakeholders who are involved in education. They might be teachers, they might be parents, students and as well as community policy makers here, such that we can build a strong foundation in the children. And this one is, we need to ensure assessment as of and for learning through portfolios, even collaborative work, even project works. So we need to arrange quizzes for the students, and we need to come up with role plays that will be very helpful to understand the concepts of, especially let us talk about even Ramayana. So if we want to teach about Ramayana, we need to go for playing of a roles, okay, role play, and this role play should be conducted by using those children itself. Then only they can understand the concept very, very better. So when we want to make them to understand what is rotation and revolution, okay, when you want to make understand what is a rotation and revolution, let us take the example of two children, one should be placed in the middle, like he will be the sun. And what is a rotation? That another children, they need to move around himself. Then we can understand the what is rotation, what is revolution in a very, very easy manner, okay, such that children they can visualize the pictures in their mind and they can understand the concepts very, very easily. And this one is, we need to ensure tracking of learning levels of children. So whenever we are tracking the levels of children, so if the children they are going good, then it is a good thing, and if the children who are behind, then we need to take some special care to impart skills in those children who are lagging behind. Okay, so these are some important objectives. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says anti-tank missile completes all trials. So this article mainly talking about Helena. Helena is nothing but helicopter version of this Nag missile. So this will be very important from our security and even science and technology, which comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that, so helicopter launched Nag anti-tank guided missile Helena. So Helena is nothing but, you have to remember, it is helicopter version of Nag. So this Helena completed all trials and process for issuing of acceptance of necessity. So it need to get acceptance of necessity by army. So now let us try to focus on some important facts regarding this Helena. Helena, it is nothing but helicopter version of Nag. Okay, it is mainly designed and developed indigenously by Indian Army under Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. So under this Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, Helena designed and developed indigenously by Indian Army. And next one is it mainly manufactured by India's sole missile producer. It is a state-owned Bharat Dynamics Limited. So it is mainly manufactured by Bharat Dynamics Limited. And this one is Helena. It is one of the most anti-tank weapons in the world. Okay, it is an anti-tank. It mainly targets tank. Okay, so it is one of the anti-tank weapons in the world, and it works on forget and fire and forget principles, and operates in lock on before launch mode. It mainly works on fire and forget thing, and operational range it is about 7 to 10 kilometers. And it is also equipped with highly advanced imaging infrared radar seeker system, and even it is mainly designed to destroy modern battle tanks. It is against battle tanks, so it is called as anti-tank weapons. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says is spike. So if you see central theme, it mainly says that India must prioritize vaccines to states and districts that are at greater infection risk. So now India needs to prioritize vaccines to states. For example, if you see in southern state, especially in Kerala, there are high number of cases. So there is high number of cases that is seen in Kerala, especially in southern India. So because of this, now center government, that is government, need to prioritize vaccine to states and districts where we are getting high or greatest infection risk. So this article it is important from your GS paper to under health. Already we discussed number of topics regarding this COVID-19 vaccine, right? And now let us have a brief look over this topic. So if you see this article mainly talking about this COVID-19 vaccine, why it is in news. So yesterday, okay, so not yesterday, on September 17th, so India administered a recorded number of vaccines. It is about 2.5 crore vaccine shots. So India on September 7th administered a record 2.5 crore vaccine shots. So this is equivalent to the population of whole Australia and 2/3 of population of Canada and 5 times the population of New Zealand. The only other comparison here, if we are comparing with China, Chinese pace of vaccination, 2.47 crore shots on a single day Chinese went, but now we got 2.4 crores of vaccine shots. It is a one of recorded thing. And if you see some more data, it mainly says that 2.5 crore means 62% of Indian adults have now got at least one dose, and 1 in 5 successfully fully inoculated. So this is the data. And if you are talking about vaccine supply in India, Bharat Biotech, which is mainly supplying about 6 to 7 crore doses in a month, that is from July to August, and 10 crore doses a month from September. So it is according to data which is released by the Department of Biotechnology. And if you are talking about Covaxin, okay, so at least 52 crore doses that are released from July to December. Of this 52 crore doses, about 40 crores are supplied within the months, okay, or to be supplied from the within the months of December, okay, September to December. So since vaccination drive has begun, only 9 crore of doses of Covaxin have been administered as of last week, and we are mainly short with at least 3 crore shots. So in this context, several cabinet ministers, they mainly said about boosting of this India's vaccination drive, and whenever they are going for the boosting of this vaccination drive, they are mainly expecting it would inoculate in adult population about 94 crore by this year end. But to achieve this target, we need 184 crore doses, okay. But here we are mainly facing very much shortfall. So in this context, this article says that yes, we are facing shortfall of this supply of this COVID-19 doses, but here in this context, here center that must prioritize the states which are mainly having higher risk of this COVID-19, and we need to go for increasing of vaccination in those areas which is having greater risk of this COVID-19 transmission. So this is just of this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. It is somewhat interesting. So this title of this article says that empathy through education. So through education itself, we need to focus on social and educational learning. So it is mainly talking about social and educational learning in this education. So here, this article mainly focusing on how can we impart social and educational learning. Okay, so this article, it is somewhat controversy, and now let us try to understand what is important from UPSC, and we are going to pick up those points. So this will be important from education point of view, which comes under GS paper 2, and this type of topics you can expect from your mains, and even some points from this article you can use in your essay as well. So now let us try to see this topic. First, let us try to see the central theme. So central theme mainly says that social and educational learning. Social and educational learning is not fluff. It is an important goal in education. So there are many researchers says that. So this social and educational learning, they are fluff. But author says that social and educational learning, they are not fluff. They are very much important goal. They are also one of the important goal of education. So this is the thing which mainly said by author. So if you are talking about some important details, if you try to understand what is this, why is this social and emotional learning, okay, why is this social and emotional learning is in news? Because here India's national education policy, so in this national education policy, that is new national education policy of 2020, which is mainly talking about social and emotional learning. Social and emotional learning, they are very much important facet of our education. So what is a social and emotional learning? Social and emotional learning is nothing but it is a process of learning meant to recognize and even to manage emotions and navigate the social situations efficiently. So what are the social situations that are present around the child? They need to navigate those situations, and they need to recognize and they need to manage their emotions. So this social and even emotional learning, it is an important part of education. So here teachers in our education system, we need to impart this social and emotional learning. So this is the thing which mainly said by author. So while the policy mainly notes, that is this national education policy which mainly talking about numeracy and literacy as the central aims of this policy, and here this policy which also gave the equal importance even for supporting skills, for example communication, even collaboration, critical thinking and creativity. So this communication, critical thinking and as well as creativity, that will part of our social and emotional learning. So if you're talking about this article which mainly says that, so this social and emotional learning, they are very much foundation for our human development. So this learning will also helps to build healthy relationships, and even this will be helpful for self and as well as social awareness, and it will be helpful for solving of problems and make the reasonable decisions and even academic learning. So in all these things, this social and emotional learning is important. And if you're talking about what are the key elements in this social and emotional learning, they mainly include two important things. First one is empathy and second one is theory of mind. So if you're talking about empathy, so if you have completed your static syllabus under ethics, you will be having one separate topic regarding this empathy, right? Empathy means nothing but it is ability to understand another person's emotions. For example, if you are a district collector, let us take the hypothetical example. You are a district collector. One old woman, she came to you regarding she is not getting pensions or anything. Okay, she approached you. So now you need to understand the problem of that woman. You should be in a situation, you should be in a position of that woman and try to understand the problems. So this is called as empathy. Empathy is one of the important value, important thing that a civil servant should present. Okay, civil servant, for every civil servant we need to have empathy. Empathy means nothing but we need to understand the problems, we need to understand the other people's emotions. So this empathy is one of important part of this social emotional learning. And next one is theory of mind. Theory of mind means we need to have the ability, or we need to have the capability to understand others' intentions, others' knowledge, beliefs, and recognize that those might be different from your own. So for example, if you are having some perceptions regarding so and so topic, but if you need to understand the others' perceptions also regarding the same topic. Okay, so you need to understand intentions, You need to understand knowledge, beliefs, and as well as you need to recognize that those might be different from your own. So what happened regarding social and emotional learning, many researchers said that, many researchers found that students with greater social skills and emotional regulation, they are more likely to have the success in their life. But many people, okay, some people, they may perceive that discussions regarding the social and emotional learning, that is fluff, because they are mainly rooted with the physiology of children. Physiology means that is regarding the brain. So neurobiologically, various brain regions, for example prefrontal, frontal cortices, amygdala, and even superior temporal sulcus, they are involved in this social emotional learning. So this is a thing which mainly said by neurobiologists. But interestingly, many scientists, they have proposed that psychological and physiological factors of this SEL, they are even inherited. That means they will be coming from their parents. So here this article mainly says that brain systems that are responsible for the basic human behavior, for example such as getting hungry, and maybe reused for the complex mechanism which is involving in this SEL, but despite it is a very important in our life. So because of this, here this NEP, National Education Policy, which mainly try to incorporate this SEL in this National Education Policy. Mainly to overcome this challenge, we need to incorporate this SEL in the children's education. So what happened, why it is relevant now? Because of this COVID-19 pandemic, almost from 17 months or 18 months, schools have been shut down. So because of this, we mainly experience there is a learning loss in children. So if the children, they are going to school, means the teachers, they will incorporate some good habits, and the children, they will try to think what is the good and what is the bad. So what are the good things they need to do, what are the bad things they need to avoid. Okay, and in this way what happens, so it is one of the precedental challenge to impart the social and emotional learning in the school closures. Okay, because this mainly shifted to the role of parents now. So earlier it is a role of teachers, but now whenever the children, they are sitting in the house and whenever they are attending these online classes, so now it is a responsibility of the parents, they got an opportunity to discover their children's social and economical lives. And in this context, what can be done? So we need to go for application of this SEL practices based on the students' socio-economic backgrounds. And even these SEL strategies of caretakers and as well as educators, they must align with one another. And we need to go for long-term things, long-term success, which mainly requires the social and emotional learning that to be based on the scientific evidence. Okay, so not only this, even our sustainable development goals and these goals in this policies, which mainly outlines to ensure the future changes, okay, future changes which are mainly prioritizing inclusive and as well as equitable quality education, and in that we need to also promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. So this is the gist of this topic, and I hope it is clear. And now let us move on to next topic. It is a very simple topic, and we are not going to see each and every point regarding the data which is given here. So what is important from UPSC, we are going to address that. So before saying this article, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. If you want to clear UPSC 2022, we came up with one excellent, highly beneficial as well as highly economical course, that is current affairs package along with the mains answer writing practice. So how this course will be useful to clear this UPSC 2022? So one thing I want to say here is, before entering into examination hall, you need to know at least 1.5 years current affairs for sure. And this is right time to join this course to cover this 1.5 years current affairs in a comprehensive manner. Here in this course, we are mainly focusing on this mains answer writing practice. So how this mains answer writing practice is important and relevant. So in mains, after clearing prelims, you will be having mains exam. In mains, you will be having 3 hours of time, and this 3 hours you need to answer 20 questions. So now you can imagine, like, so to write one question you will be getting on average 7 to 7.5 minutes. So within this 7 to 7.5 minutes you need to complete your answer. So now you can imagine so how much fast should be and how much practice you need to have. So in this course, you are going to write more than 300 questions and more than 50 essays, and this course will give you enough practice. And this one is, if you join this course, we also conduct prelims test on every Sunday and we provide you video explanation part. So in this way, this course which is designed as per demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing. Please don't take this course as a choice. Try to join this course as soon as possible and achieve your dream of clearing UPSC. Details of this course which is given in description box, so please visit that once. And if you want to talk to me directly, you can call to this number 8074765513. And one thing I want to say is, by October 1st week, this course is going to be ended. So registration will be closed by October 1st week. So if you want to join this course, please hurry up. And now let's come back and let us see the last topic of the day. Title says the relative income subject to well-being connect. So this article may talking about well-being and the relationship with the relative income. So if you're talking about what is this well-being, actually this well-being of people may be related to two distinct approaches. So regarding this well-being, we are having two approaches. So first approach here is we are having conventional approach, and second approach is about measure of subjective well-being. Measure of subjective well-being. So if you're talking about first approach, that is conventional approach. Conventional approach is mainly measuring in terms of objective criterion such as income and expenditure. So based on income or expenditure, so we are mainly talking about well-being. So if you are getting more large income, large amount of salary, and if you are spending a lot, that means you are good. You are in a good position. And if you are talking about this measure of subjective well-being, it mainly deals with satisfaction. So how much satisfied you are, whether you are satisfied with your salary or not, whether you are happy with your salary or not. So we are going to measure your happiness and even satisfaction in this subjective thing. In this objective criteria, we are mainly focusing on income and as well as expenditure. But here in this subjective thing, we are mainly looking towards happiness and as well as satisfaction you are getting. So if you're talking about, in my case, I'm not saying whether how much income I am getting and how much expenditure I am doing, but I am enjoying my life. So it is my passion to teach to students of UPSC. So I'm not bothering about how much income I am getting or how much expenditure I am doing, but I am mainly enjoying my life. I am very much happy and I am satisfied with my life in this teaching field. Okay, so this is the difference between these two approaches regarding measure of well-being. So if you're talking about here subjective measures, it is not about the income of the individual, but we are also taking other characteristics like age, gender, schooling, religion, caste, marital status, whether married or not, even health, employment, social networks, etc. So if we're talking about recently one survey, so this survey released report in 2015 if I am not wrong, so please check in that article once. And this report title here is India Human Development Survey. So India Human Development Survey, which mainly conducted by National Council of Applied Economic Research. National Council of Applied Economic Research, which mainly came up with some salient features of this report, which mainly says that it is only all India panel survey apart from wide range of demographic, health, economic and social variables, which mainly ask about this subjective well-being. So they mainly said that we find that there is a relative income effect. So in this study, they mainly found that there is some relative income effect, that is actual per capita income or expenditure as a fraction of maximum primarily sample in it, which is a much larger. So they mainly found that there is an income effect that is having some impact on well-being of people. And next one is individuals, they mainly adapt to material goods, and these goods they yield little joy for most individuals. Thus, there is increasing income which are expected to rise well-being by rising consumption opportunities. So in this study, they mainly said that they mainly found out, like, so material, for example, the well-being which is mainly, it depends upon the relative income effect. So whenever the income is increasing, then what happens? People will be very happy and they will go out and they will go for increasing consumption. So this is the thing which mainly said, and actually this is nothing like it is much important topic, but you need to understand what is the social well-being and what are the theories of this well-being. There are two theories, there are two theories, right? So first one is objective theory, second one is subjective theory. So objective theory or conventional theory, which is mainly focusing on income and expenditure, and subjective theory, which is mainly focusing on life satisfaction, happiness. So most of our society, which is mainly based on this conventional approach itself. So this is gist of this topic. So I hope it is clear. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll to this current affairs package. And for the PDF of this lecture, you can join the Telegram channel. Link is given in description box. Thank you so much.